minute since I went live and wanted to take a little bit out to share with you what's going on in the markets, what's going on with rates, so you're aware and kept up to speed. So let's go ahead and look. I'm going to move my head out the way so you can screenshot this. But over the last few weeks, we've seen a huge drop in the market, meaning rates have gone up. Let me show you. Screenshot. Let me move out the way. Let's go ahead and screenshot it. So yeah, and I'm going to go into this live why the market has had this this response and what we can think, what we can kind of project going forward. So here's the market. Let's continue to look at the next slide. Screenshot that if you haven't already. Boom. Here's the important data that's coming out this week that could move the markets. And don't worry if you come in live. Thank you everyone who's joining. I upload these to my YouTube channel as well a couple days after doing this, but let me move out the way. This is important. CPI tomorrow, PPI on Thursday, and then jobless claims. And then Friday we have some other important economic data that's going to impact the markets. But this report is projected to be down and showing inflation up a little bit. So not promising. Let me just show you some more information so you can screenshot this stuff. It's important to know because this is kind of like what we're going to see. We're projecting that inflation for this month is going to go up a little bit. And then where we can see it going in the future, maybe we get a little bit of a rebound in January because it's replacing the numbers from the month before. And that chart's right here. Screenshot this. You can check. This is inflation data for since 2000. You can see what happens when the CPI, PPI reports come out. It's replacing the data from the year before. So we're about to be replacing November's data with the current, October's data with the current data on November 13th, and then December's data when it comes out will replace November, then January's will replace December, etc. So you can see what's going to be replacing in 2025 across the board. The scary thing is, like many of us have been showing people and trying to explain to people, the reason why rates were up was look at inflation in 2022. Average 8%, but across the board, prices were high. And so what does that mean? Rates are in essence tied to inflation. When inflation's high, rates are going to be high because the Fed has to increase the Fed fund rate. And their job is to monetary tightening, to tighten the economy, to slow down spending so that inflation rises at their target at 2%. We're close to that now. But depending on how things go, inflation could rise back to 10%. And this isn't a joke. This is just data. I mean, we have Nobel Prize winning economists explaining, take a screenshot, why the data, if you see right down there, can go up to 10% or more. Why? Because the way they were dropping rates, inflation. No, that's the problem is they were working on dropping the Fed fund rate, but it's not fast enough. And they only do that to help loosen monetary policy to help encourage spending again. And it wasn't that the rates dropped too fast. It's they didn't drop fast enough. And now we have the opposite thing again. And it wasn't that the rates dropped too fast. It's they didn't drop fast enough. And now we have the opposite direction. And they tighten, but people had to keep spending because people need to live. And so when you see corporations making record profits and bragging about it, it's insane. And so this is when you have a person who might potentially take office whose policies are inflationary, it's going to be a detriment. And this is terrifying for people, but at the same time, there's going to be opportunities. And that's what I wanted to show you in this other chart here, because this is going to show you the average interest rates, since the 70s. You can see 10%, nearly 20%, but this is all tied to inflation, because if you look back at the inflation data, if you go to the bls.gov and you can look it all up, I'm not going to overpromise and underdeliver. Rates could go up, continue to go up, like they have been since the middle of September, because inflation is going to have the opposite direction if we impact tariffs, and especially if we deport people that are here. It's going to be devastating. So I want to be honest with you, tell you what's going on, show you what's going on in the market with data and not just somebody telling you information so that you can see. I'm going to drop this background there. Thank you, everyone who's joined. Let's talk. Higher inflation rates result in lower inflation rates. No, higher Fed fund rate is meant to be a monetary tightening policy, slowing down spending. So when the Fed fund rate is higher, interest rates on mortgages are higher, everything are higher. The Fed fund rate impacts short term loans like credit cards and car loans, but it also will impact other markets like the mortgage market. And so that's what I'm saying. And they've tried to cut it 25 basis points, but it's not enough. If you look at that chart that I showed you, we have brought inflation down from 8% in 2022 down into threes and now into the targeted of 2, but they've only had 2 Fed fund rate cuts since 2022. Like, this is embarrassing. And so they didn't make more cuts because the jobless claims, we kept adding jobs, which is great. But people aren't seeing the fact that most people are adding 2 and 3 jobs to their one person working because of how hard it was in the economy. Because these people are working off of antiquated systems, they are not aware of what is really going on in the country. And so they didn't want to make cuts because they were confounded why we kept adding jobs and why the jobs market was so strong. People were needing to work to afford the cost of things. And now you have grocery chains doing price adjustments based on who's in the store and peak pricing and controlling it. It's scary. And imagine when I showed you that other thing, when it shows you like grocery stores and costs, if this mass deportation drama goes through, which is disgusting and embarrassing, who make up most of the majority of home builders? Who makes up most of the agricultural workers in our country? If they're mass deported, that will limit the supply of workers, causing prices to go up. If tariffs are implemented, the consumer pays the tariff. And we try to tell people this over and over and over, but people ignored it. And they're like, nuh-uh. If you sell shirts for $20 and that shirt, and you pay $5 for that shirt, but now the shirt costs you $10, are you still going to sell the shirt for $20? Most people will say no. This is why it's inflationary. And Nobel Prize winning economists, 16 of them, warned people what's going on. Rounding people up and pointing, this is but you got to understand it. It's an impact to the labor market, and also undocumented workers contribute billions to the U.S. economy and don't get to file returns. So people that don't understand how this works, they're parroting back right-wing propaganda. Go look at Nobel Prize winning economists telling you what's going on. And when you look at that impact to the labor market, the impact to the agricultural market, it's going to be insane. Yes, they are. They already said it day one. Go look. When people think that they're not going to deport anyone, you are mistaken. You are mistaken. Save your information. Come back to me when they start doing this. They are going to do it. They promised it. Do you just see who they put to the person to lead this charge? Embarrassing. Stop. It's insane. I'm blocking you. I cannot tolerate people who are ignorant in the comments. So bye. Gone out of my comment section. Ignoring what's coming out of someone's mouth for hopeful wishful is why we have the situation we have now. People that did not realize that tariffs are inflationary because they kept listening to a bankrupt person is devastating. And it's different when President Bill Clinton deported more than Bush, because this situation is different. They're wanting to get rid of naturalized citizens. This is a different policy, and not to the scale that they're talking about. Watch Flint Chip 34. God dang it. I'm tired. Block account. Bye. People that are ignorant and stupid and uneducated that say stuff like that, they don't understand the difference in the type of person that we have in front of us. I'll be fine, but women in our lives are not going to be fine. People of color in our lives are not going to be fine. I'm trying to warn you as a person who's in finance, and I see what's going on. There's chances. You should still buy a property while you still can. Rates are going to be higher. It is what it is. But the return on your money on property is insane, because that's another thing. I want to show you at least some level of hope. Let me go through and show you what home price appreciation done. Since some of the most, when I showed you the amount of inflation in different time periods. Let me see if I still have that chart somewhere. Because it is devastating to talk about. I hate it. I hate seeing that people are going to struggle. I hate it because the people that will benefit are rich white men. That is it. Dang, I can't find that chart. Home price appreciation data since 1942. Flipping through my phone. I know I have it here somewhere. There it is. Pink. Here's home price appreciation data since 1942. The good news is when we saw inflation at record highs in the 40s and the 70s and 80s, home prices still went up. So you're going to have to buy what you can comfortably afford. Just know that it's going to be tight. It's going to be tough. And part of the reason why home prices keep going up is supply versus demand. There's so much demand, but not enough supply to keep up with that demand. So it's causing prices to go up. Plus the cost of lumber, especially if we put tariffs on China like they're talking about doing in 20 and 30 and 60%, everything is going to go up. Buy what you can comfortably afford now. I'm telling you. And anybody in the comments that's 123.troll.whatever, I'm laughing at you and I will block you. I have no time for ignorance. I just showed you stats and data from Nobel Prize winning economists. You doing research on Facebook or Twitter and you're getting fed right-wing propaganda, you should be embarrassed. Go to the source. There's public access information. Go there. Please. And research. CPI reports are public information. We can go there and see how this works. If you go to the St. Louis Fed's website, you can look up any chart that I just shared with you and see what is going on. Look up the CPI, Consumer Price Index, PPI, Producer Price Index. All of these reports are so important for us to see because we're going to see which industries are showing the cost for them to do business and the cost of the consumer, and you're going to see why there's been record profits. And when people were not helping to try to limit price gouging, every single Republican voted against limiting price gouging, against Medicare having the ability to negotiate drug prices, because big pharma and big corporations have bought and sold you a lie, and you're not listening. I can only do what I can do. I will be fine, like I said. But there's a lot of Americans who are not going to be fine. Every single one of them did and explained it. And that Dan Joseph, embarrassing that you would say that. Go look it up. Bye. Just Google it. Look at record profits. Look at the transfer of wealth between the regular people and the top 5. Look at Elon Musk's and Jeff Bezos and all of the other top 10 people's wealth jump between 2019 and now. 2020 and now. This is not a game. Dan Joseph, I guarantee you don't make more than 350 grand a year, 400 grand a year. You're a regular person. Your money is about to be screwed. I'm trying to help people. If you have questions, put it in the comments. But if you're ignorant, I'm just going to block you. I'm not putting up with bots and alts. Okay? This is for a real conversation. Should you invest in property? Absolutely. Buy what you can comfortably afford. Buy well below your budget. Because this is the thing that most people aren't going to tell you. Your property taxes can go up every year. And your homeowner's insurance can go up every year. So if you max your budget out, especially on new builds, because a lot of people went to new builds because their interest rates were a little bit better. But what's going to happen when the property taxes adjust to the after improved value? Then they're not going to be able to afford that home anymore. It's over. What brand is your microwave? My microwave's one that has a sliding opening and closing, dude. I press a button and it opens. I don't know. I have a million plus dollar house, so I don't know. That's why I'm saying I'll be fine. But there's a lot of people that aren't. So, yeah. Bye, Bobby. You're an idiot. I don't have time for that. All right, let me try to calm down a little. I'm trying to maintain some level of calm because this has been something that's intense and insane that I don't understand why so many people ignore what is in front of them and try to be like, oh, subcontext in this, and he didn't mean this when he said that he would deport everybody, and he didn't mean that he would cut welfare and cut this, and he doesn't mean that he ban abortion and ban contraceptive and ban all that. Yes, he does. And ignorance is what kills democracy, and you had the ability to research. That's why when you see what the Google spikes, like, what are tariffs? People were telling people what tariffs were for a long freaking time. Tariffs are, in essence, another tax on regular people. When the cost of an item increases, they pass that cost to the consumer. It's not China paying the tariff, it's you paying the tariff, because they're going to adjust the price to make sure that they hit their profit. For an easy example, say you are a business owner and you sell t-shirts, and that t-shirt you sell for 20 bucks. When you import the t-shirt, it's $5 a shirt. So you're making $15 on that shirt. Now, with the adjustment in for the tariff, now that shirt costs an extra 50%, right? So you were paying 5, so now that shirt goes up to $7.50. Are you still selling the shirt for 20 bucks? Or are you gonna, or do most people push that price up a little bit to like $22.50? Or if they want to make a little profit because they can blame inflation, like what we saw for the last 2 years, they charge 30 bucks for that shirt. Same shirt, the tariff is there, but now it's up this 30 bucks. Who pays the cost of a tariff? Us. It's inflationary. Rates, in essence, for mortgages are tied to inflation. When inflation is high, rates are high. I showed you the stats. This is not complicated. Many people try to warn people, and it was ignored. And it's going to be devastating. But I'm not going to not say stuff on my channel and make sure I educate as much as possible so people can see it. I wish I could scream too, Dash. And it's disheartening and disgusting and disappointing. Think about this. In my job as a mortgage loan officer, you can't have any felonies or any criminal record. You can't, or you can't be a mortgage loan officer. We just elected somebody that can't even be in my industry, can't be in most industries, couldn't even be an assistant in his own administration because he has 34 felony counts. Never mind the fact that he was shown in a lawsuit with Epstein in 2016, named in there where he assaulted a 13-year-old girl, or E. Jean Carroll, or can't have a charity in New York because of fraud. How many times? 6+ bankruptcies. Everything he touches turns to crap. And everybody's worried, like, oh, well, I voted for him to get my groceries down. Your groceries were high because of the policies he put in place before leaving office. You have to understand that there's a lag in change in policy. So Trump got the benefit of Obama's plans and tax plans. And then those started to expire towards the end. And then he implements his stuff. And then we get that experience through the first part of Biden's stuff. So the groceries are not on Biden and Harris and all these costs. It's on the previous. And now we're about to see a massive problem in our country, and people tried to warn them. There was a debate the other day where the policies on people's privacy protections under Roe v. Wade that was removed, and their ability to make decisions with their doctor instead of the government being in that room, have cost many people their lives and will continue to cost people their lives for basic medical care. People that aren't necessarily wanting abortive care, they're just wanting natural care for their child, especially here in Texas, where miscarriages happen naturally. But now those people could be prosecuted. The doctors could be prosecuted for this. And I have friends, personal friends, that have went through this heart-wrenching experience. And to think that they could possibly die in the parking lot because a doctor's too afraid to give them care because of the legislation that was put in is disgusting. We don't regulate men's bodies. We don't have any kind of things that tell us when and where we can and can't do things medically. But women are treated as second-class citizens, and us men need to take a stand for women and stand up for their privacy and stand up for their protection. In addition to why the privacy protections are devastating when they're removed, is now the government can monitor everything you do. And when you look at all these apps and applications that want to track your medical information, why? And this is what's funny to me. Most of these people are conspiracy theorists, right? They watch movies like Fahrenheit 451 and all of these other doomsday type shows, right? How do you think a government could ever make you take medicine to limit your emotions? Like the movie with Christian Bale. I can't remember the name of it right now, but there's a movie with Christian Bale where they limit your emotions. Your emotions were considered bad. Well, if you don't have privacy protections, the government can force you to do anything. If they can tell you you can't do something, they can tell you you must do something. And that's the part that people are forgetting in all of this stuff. It's none of the government's business being inside of our decisions with our doctors. That should be left to a medical professional, not a freaking politician that's 85 years old. And when they were a child, they were still around when cocaine was allowed to be inside of Coca Cola. I don't want to hear from them. I don't want to hear from somebody that was in school when segregation was allowed because that's an embarrassment in our country. And instead of being able to face that and apologize, they choose to hide it and try to burn books and ban books instead of standing face to face in the mirror and showing the public that we can take ownership and accountability and say, hey, we messed up during this period of time. We did this. Here's how we're going to fix it. They'd rather bury it and cover it up like it wasn't a thing. And anybody that's competitive out there, sorry, this is going away from mortgage rates and stuff. Let me take this down from the background. But think about this. How do I get this stupid screen off? Sorry, taking me a second to figure this out. I'm about on a 8-year-old's level of technology. Go away there. Think about this. We're looking at all of these things that are coming, right? When we were in school, or if you've ever played a sport and you're competitive, right? You want to know you beat somebody at their best. It's not a good win when the other people's best players aren't out there or you don't have something else on the team, right? Imagine if over the last few hundred years to we weren't putting in legislation to limit women's rights to things because women couldn't have they couldn't have businesses until 1988. We couldn't have a bunch of stuff. Women couldn't have bank accounts. Women couldn't vote till the 20s. Black women couldn't vote until I think the 60s or 70s. Women have been screwed over for hundreds of years. Period. Not just them, but like a lot of different people. And that's the part that's really pissing me off about this is I want to compete with the best. I want everybody to be strong on the team. And so when you limit and you handcuff a group of people and say no, you've hurt the team in general. And that stuff's what sucks. And anybody who plays sports knows what time it is. And that's what I'm trying. And it goes bigger than that. But I'm just tired of seeing people worried about this one getting something, and that means that someone else isn't getting something. No, that's people being lied to by look who's benefits from our fear. It's the big 1% corporation people that are billionaires that are telling us, hey, these people are the ones taking your money, making it hard when they're haven't given raises to minimum wage in decades. But their rates of increase in pay has gone up exponentially every single year. Look at the average pay for a CEO in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Look at the trend versus now. Thousands of percentages higher now than it was before. But they're telling us that no, we can't. And then blaming inflation, which is prices that increase, on wages, and it's saying wage pressure inflation. Why is people getting paid more automatically a justification to increase prices? The price is what it is. Why do we have to charge more just because people are getting paid more? It doesn't make sense. It's these silly levers that are on the economy that's causing things to be almost complacent with regular people to be, oh, it just is what it is. No, it ain't. And that's what's going to be scary to see is what's about to happen. I'll be fine. A lot of people won't. And I've just showed you the information. Rates for homes are going up. They have been for a while. They were starting to make a huge rebound in September, or prior to September, right there before the first Fed fund rate cut. But then after that, boom, crazy, like 400 basis point drop, meaning rates went up. It's just sad, but it is what it is. If you have questions, put in the comments. I'm only going to be on here for a minute. Um, you know, it is what it is. Let me see what I've got. Somebody put restrictions on here. One new follower. Live visibility restriction. Well, this is what I'm talking about. When you talk about anything that talk about right wing propaganda or anything, they get in their feelings and they want to report stuff. So something I've been doing, and I encourage others that are watching this to do, stop engaging with bot and alt accounts. And you know when it's a bot or alt account when you go and look at their profile, they got nothing there or it's private. All I do is report them and block them because what they want is division. They want people in here fighting with each other. They want you to think that there's more racist weirdos than there are normal people. And so they make their voices loud. And I've experienced this personally where you get mass bot attacks, mass flag attacks. And I've also seen friends that have experienced this. One of my friends who had almost 300,000 followers on TikTok had their account mass flagged and it was removed. That was one of their major sources of income because they were talking about how Christians had impacted indigenous people of this land and when they put them into the schools and their account was attacked. So what I would encourage you on all social media platforms, when you see rage bait and people being intentionally obtuse in the comments, don't engage with it. Don't dignify it with a response. Report and block them. Now, if somebody has followers and has videos of their face and you can tell it's not AI or a bot or an alt, sure, engage with them. Have conversation because that's how we learn. As people, that's what terrifies the collective people in charge about these types of apps. Because if you remember back in 2019 and 2020, TikTok was a different vibe. Like you were learning stuff and seeing people from Mongolia and showing how they lived and all over the world and different cool, fun things. And then they started worrying about us talking because we got exposed to different people. And there's intentional efforts to keep people in these little bubbles so you never get outside influence. You never see what it's like in other countries. You don't get to see what it's like in amazing countries outside and hear about their healthcare system and hear about how they're taken care of and hear about their quality of life because they don't want us to know about that. How many people travel outside of the state they were born in the United States? It's sad. Or fly outside of the country. They have these assumptions about different countries, but you go to places and you start to see how it is out there. It's important to travel. It's important to invest. It's important to read books. It's important to network. That's why they wanted to ban this because we started talking with each other. We started relating to each other. And we started to understand that we had shared experiences collectively that are empowering to break down those walls that were built by a system that intentionally made us to think that there needed to be some weird divide. That this people, these ones, that one, this one, we're just all people that are alive on this planet that are trying to do the best we can, and we have shared lived experiences. Most people grow up, if you're in certain age ranges, liking the same shows, enjoying the same foods, enjoying the same things, similar struggles, all of it. But we weren't brought together to ever share that in collective mass. And then as soon as it did start to blend, they freak out and they try to separate everything. And we see that as equality starts to happen in a country, they start to do real crazy stuff to try to separate it. And we have to fight against that stuff and just keep communicating with people. Because a lot of people are fed stuff, especially with the way algorithms work. I did this experience on this app. When I first started it, I was all fun, getting exposed to all this different information. So I was like amazed. And then somebody's like, man, I messed up and I reset the algorithm. And now all of a sudden I'm getting all this crazy stuff. Well, I did it. And all of a sudden I'm getting doomsday prepping and right wing stuff and hate and rage and all this stuff. I'm like, what is going on? So then I cleared it again. And then I was like, how can I personally manipulate my own algorithm by liking and engaging with different content? So then I did that. And I'm like, okay, I see how this works. So now I'm understanding, I don't know the technical wizard stuff. I just know that it's a funnel system and it wants to funnel you into the farthest direction on either side. They don't want you to be anywhere in the middle. They want you to be either far right, far left, or whatever. And so that's the part that they want because funneling, because if they can funnel you into the right section, they can control you. They don't want you to understand about the shared experience. They don't want you to know how things are impacted when there's mass deportation and internment camps. And they don't want you to be able to read books like Madeleine Albright's book, Fascism. And they don't want you to read other different books that will show you step by step other countries and how they experience that and what it looks like. Because then if you start to reflect and you look back at what it was like for other countries and you realize what was happening in our country, because it's all driven by profit. If you go back and start to look at different accords that were struck in 1919 and before, in different meetings that were happening in the 1800s about who's going to split up what in Africa and who's going to do this. And then you have 1912, 1919, when cars start to be mass produced. And now you have big, huge, mega rich people saying, oh, we need to make sure we have different things in place to make sure we keep up for scale because they saw what was coming. They have 100-year plans when most regular people are just trying to make it till tomorrow. So this stuff is intentional. We have to work together. We have to communicate, and we have to stop the disinformation campaigns in their tracks. And how we do that is by reporting and blocking. You have to understand that disinformation campaigns, the Americans have done that for decades in propaganda in different South America, Central America, different places all over the world, Asia, destabilizing their country so it's easier for civil unrest, and then we can control and manipulate them. It's happening in our own country, and we're watching it live. And people are being fed. I've been shared stuff by my parents like, Ronnie, what's this? Like, mom, dad, that's fake information. Here, let me show you. But if you don't know, you want to trust, verify, and not just your one news source. Go to multiple sources. So I'm going to leave everybody with this. If you missed the live earlier, go to my YouTube and find it. The link's in my bio. Is it going to be tough for the next few years? Yes. Is there going to be opportunities? Yes. Always opportunities in when people are afraid and in turmoil. I hate it, but it is what it is. Be ready, because luck is just the intersection between opportunity and preparation. I didn't make that up, some other person did, but I love that concept because it's true. People aren't lucky. They just had a moment that they were prepared for, that an opportunity came, and then now everybody calls them lucky. You can't win the lottery if you don't play. I'm not telling you to play the lottery. I'm just saying, you got to be ready. Talking with people. If you're wherever you are, talk to a local licensed residential mortgage loan officer if you don't own a home. Talk to them. Hey, what down payment and closing cost assistance programs are out there? What's going on? What kind of options are there for me to be able to buy a house? Buy a condo, buy a townhome, buy a multifamily option, something you can comfortably afford and for scale, just in case. Because if you're paying rent, you're paying a mortgage, it's just not your own. And if you remember the chart I said earlier, the home price appreciation rate since 1942. We are in for it. And home prices are going to continue to go up. It's a good investment. It's great for people who got in before 2019, especially. But watch, it's going to be a lot. I'm here to help. Reach out. But again, pay attention to what's going on and pay attention to who is commenting on your videos and following you. I always look at the persons who follow me or interact, and I see how many followers they have, how many they're following, and if they have videos. And I am not wanting to be followed by bots and alt accounts. If it's an obvious bot, alt, or AI account, I block and report them. So just giving you a heads up. I encourage you the same. I used to get into it with people in the comments, and then I found out that most of them that are getting into it are not actual regular users. And so then you start to look at who they're following, and most of it's coming from India, places in Africa, different places in overseas. So I'm like, this is bots, and they're trying to destabilize us. Don't let it happen. Talk to you soon.